Hi, my name is Damon Chaffin. I'm the Senior Business Consultant here at VetBiz, and you're looking to either open a new business, acquire a business, or you have an existing business that you want to improve or enhance in some way. And so the first thing that we ask you to do is fill out a business idea quiz. Now, the business idea quiz gives us an opportunity to kind of see where you're at with your idea, see if you've moved past the idea stage to really thinking about how you're going to make money with it and so forth. And so what I'm going to do is spend the next few minutes talking to you about this business idea quiz and how to fill it out well so that we can have a great conversation when we talk. As you see on the first page, all you really need to do in that first section is to fill out the name of your business as well as your name, and that's assuming that you actually have a name for your business yet. If you don't, you can just put your name in there and kind of leave it at that, as well as the date. Make sure that you put that in there as well. Now, as we move along to the business idea quiz, what you'll see is, so what's your idea, specifically what you're looking to do, and then what product or service you're going to offer in the marketplace, and what specific need are you fulfilling? So typically people are going to buy things either that they need, they want, or they buy them on impulse, right? And so what we're trying to look at here is what specific need are you filling in the particular marketplace that you're going into. So then the second question goes into, hey, who's going to buy it or who's going to use it? And this really gets to your target market, okay? If you and one tip I would give you here is if you use the term anyone or anybody or everybody in that, you're way too broad. Intuitively, we want everybody to be our customer, right? But the fact of the matter is that what's going to represent the vast majority of our customers is a small slice of that. So what we're trying to get at is, hey, based on the business that I'm going to open, if I'm looking at an individual, how old are they? What's their income? What's their gender? Where are they located? What's their occupation? Education level, those kind of things for an individual. If companies are going to be our customer, well, then we'd look, hey, what industry are they in? What's their location? What stage of the business cycle are they in? Are they in a startup phase? Are they in a growth phase? Are they in a mature phase? And then the actual size of the company. And so that's the first part of that, is specifically, hey, who's going to buy it? Who's going to use it? And then we want to look at, if you had the entire market to yourself, well, how many people would buy it? How many people that fit your target are in your particular market? Okay. And then the third question there, what's a realistic estimate of how many people would really buy it from you? Well, based on, the fact that you have a total entire market, what percentage of those people do you think would really buy that from you? And then the last question is, hey, look, the questions that you answered the prior three, do you have any kind of data or research to back it up, or are you pretty much guessing? And, at this point, like I said, guessing is okay, but, we certainly need to get some kind of market research going so that we can make sure that we've truly got a market for our particular product and service, and that we can sell it for a price that allows us to make money. So the third question is, how is your product different or better than other products or services? What makes it unique, and why would they buy from you as opposed to the competition? And really what this is getting at is competitive advantage. What is your advantage as opposed to the other people out there that are selling your product? Why would they buy it from you? And this is a critical question to answer, because it really comes down to, what do we do best? What is it about us that differentiates us in the marketplace? So what makes our product better than an option that somebody else might offer? The fourth question gets into, is it easy to get into the business? What would prevent somebody else from doing it? And do you have any special knowledge or skills that others don't have? And what this gets to is, how sustainable is your competitive advantage? So if it's really easy to get into this business and you go into it and you're making a boatload of money, you can pretty much count on that somebody else is going to come into that market, and it's going to be absolutely critical that you have some kind of differentiator in order to fight off those competitors. So those questions really kind of get to the gist of, hey, how easy would it be for me to just come in and copy this? So I always use the example, let's imagine that you go in and you open your business, and then I look and I say, wow, Joe, you've got a fantastic business. Maybe I'd like to get into this business as well. So what do you have that's going to discourage me from getting in, number one? And then number two, if I do get in, what's going to be your advantage that pushes me to the side? So that's the fourth question. The fifth question, how do you plan to get your product or service in the customer's hands? Who's going to distribute your product? Are you going to sell it directly, or will you pay somebody else? How many people are in the selling chain, and how will each of them be paid? So here it kind of gets to, how is that product sold? Okay, how does it go from you having that product to the customer ending up using it? So, are you going to distribute the product yourself, or are you going to have someone else distribute that product? Are you going to sell it directly, or are you going to pay, a salesperson or a distributor or someone else to sell that product for you? Is it going to be sold online, perhaps? There's any number of different ways you can look at how that particular product is going to be sold. And then how many people are in the selling chain? Obviously, the more people that are in the selling chain, the longer that sales process is going to take. And so we want to make sure that we're identifying everybody that's in that selling chain. And like I said, for most of you, it's going to be you and then the customer, or you, a salesperson, and the customer. But again, we'd like you to identify that. And then, how are each of them going to be paid? So are they paid a commission? Are they paid a fee for each one? Are they paid a commission? Are they paid a set fee? Have you really thought through how everybody in the selling cycle is going to get paid? And that'll really kind of address that selling process. The sixth question really comes down to pricing. How much are you going to charge for your product? Okay, so again, this is an area that I find that a lot of people, that when they're looking to start a business, don't spend near enough time on, is what are they going to charge? I hear from an awful lot of people say, well, hey, the beauty of my idea is that I can charge less than my competitors, and I've got higher quality. And the question that I always ask is, name me a product that you're able to go out and buy that's the finest of that particular product at the lowest price. And what you'll find is that they don't exist. And so there has to be a trade-off between price and quality. And so that's really something that you need to think through is, hey, how much am I going to charge for it? How is that going to compare to similar products or services in the marketplace? And again, that ties into that competitive advantage that we talked about earlier. But you really want to spend some time thinking about how much you're going to charge for your particular product and where you're going to position it. And then, of course, that ties into, hey, how am I going to make money, right? So I've got to charge enough for my product and sell enough of it in order to cover my expenses and then make it worth my time, treasure, and talent. So then the seventh question comes down to marketing, okay? And so how are people going to find out about your product and how will you advertise? So a lot of people will say, well, hey, I'm going to have a website. I'm going to advertise on social media. It's like, well, that's great. Or I'm going to use word of mouth. That's my favorite, because word of mouth is a fantastic way to promote your product. Once you're established, once you have a base of delighted customers, there's very little advertising that's better than word of mouth. However, you've got to get that base of business first. So just having a website, well, I've got to have some kind of strategy to get people to my website, right? If I have a business front, I've got to have some kind of strategy so that people know about the amazing advantages and the amazing things that my product will do for them and the needs that it'll meet. So again, that, and then how are you going to advertise? So specifically, hey, are you going to look at doing direct mail? Are you going to look at email blasts? Are you going to look at Google Analytics? There's a number of different ways that you can look to advertise that are effective. The eighth kind of comes down to monetization, okay? And this is really where the rubber hits the road. So specifically, how are you gonna make money? What are you gonna sell the product for? What's it gonna cost you to get it into the customer's hands? And then, how much is that customer gonna be worth to you when they buy that product? What profitability will you make on that particular product or service? And then the volume, how many of them can I sell? And then we look at, okay, now I can get an idea of how much money I'm going to be able to make based on the volume and the value of the particular customer. How much will it cost to get started? We want to be as specific as we possibly can here. We don't want to put a number down. It's going to cost me between $50,000 and $100,000 to open my business. Again, we've got to look at specifically, hey, what do we need to buy to get open? What kind of working capital are we going to need in order to open our business and ensure that we stay in business? Because again, the goal is always to stay in business, not to get in business. And so we want to make sure that we have a good idea of all of the costs specifically that it's going to take in order for us to get started. And then how much money are you going to bring in? Again, that's really going to focus around what we talked about before. Hey, how many of them can I sell? What's the value of a customer? And then, really looking at that volume and that revenue, cost, and profitability number per customer in order to really get an idea of how much money we can expect the business to make. And then, the costs are the same thing. Hey, how much is it going to cost you to provide those services as well? So then you'll break down your expenses, your rent, your supplies, your employee benefits, those kind of things. You'll really want to try to fully load those as much as you possibly can so that you can get an idea of the total expenses. And then we're going to calculate profit. So, we're going to look and we're going to say, well, okay, we're going to look at our revenue, we're going to look at our expenses, and we're going to look at what that profit is. And hopefully what we see at the end of that is that, hey, can you sell enough to exceed expenses and still pay yourself enough to make it worthwhile? Great. Now we move on to question 9 that indicates once you've answered that question, now what we want to do, because a lot of times things don't work out as optimistically as we might imagine. So let's look at it from a really negative standpoint. Let's divide our expenses by 2. Okay, so we'll have half the revenues that we initially projected. We'll double our expenses, and then we'll see if we still make money on top of that. And if we do, then we're off to a good start. And that concludes the business idea quiz. I'm looking forward to working with each of you, and hope that helps you in getting your business idea quiz completed. Thank you, and have a great day.